Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on the View from the Crowd YouTube channel. Now you're probably wondering where I am. I'm actually currently on holiday, hence the overexposure on my face so you can't see the horrendous sunburn. But enough about that, we have another Grand Prix to review. Now we've had a nice little 2-week break, time to cool things off, but now we're back in with a double header at Silverstone. Now it's absolutely gutting for me that I can't go to this race. It's my birthday weekend. I would have loved to gone to the race, but unfortunately it's just not meant to be. Of course, in the UK we won't see crowds at any sporting events until October, but it's not going to make the race any less special. Silverstone always produces some great races. It's such an amazing track, so quick. You know, it does surprisingly have more overtaking spots than you might think, and that's why it's always been one of the biggest sort of favourites amongst fans and drivers and just everyone in Formula 1 in general. Now, to be honest, I'm going to keep this sort of preview fairly short because there's not really too much to talk about. We kind of already know how this race is going to play out already. Mercedes are looking like they are going to just run away with the championship. We've seen amazing results from the first 3 races, and nothing's going to sort of make me think otherwise when it comes to whether Mercedes is going to win this race. It's a low downforce track, very high speed, and that Mercedes is always been so quick. It's got pole every single time since 2014. That it's a mind-blowing stat. As for the other teams, Red Bull are probably going to be a predicted second. You got to think of this race sort of panning out very similar to the way that the Austrian and the Styrian Grand Prix played out. It's very fast track, low downforce, very much going to favour Mercedes. Red Bull did all right. Better than we might have thought, but not. Red Bull did alright in Styria and Austria. They were probably a little bit more off the pace than I really thought they should have been, especially considering their car did win there for the last, 2 years. So I was expecting something. But, Red Bull have never really looked like challenging Mercedes around Silverstone. It's a weird track. They tend to be locked in quite tight battles with the Ferrari. So I can't really see Red Bull, getting a win here at all. Honestly, I think podium is probably the best that they can hope for. Now, after maybe a couple of shaky races for Alex Albon, this is one that he's going to have to really show up for. A lot of questions are already circling around his position at Red Bull, whether or not he's going to be safe for 2021. That is all a bit crazy and messy at the moment, but it's very sort of strange, the fact that we're already talking about Alex Albon's position in Red Bull. It's just such the way that Red Bull is, and the amount of scrutiny the drivers are under. We've seen it with Kvyat, we've seen it with Gasly. I really hope that it doesn't happen to Albon. I think he's a great driver. He just really needs to start showing his worth this season. He was unlucky in the first race, but the last 2 races really haven't been up to scratch. Now for Ferrari, I really don't know what to expect here. That drag and that engine issue is going to cost them heavily here. With the fact that you've got your foot to the floor for quite a significant time around this lap. They really are locked in this midfield battle with Racing Point and McLaren, who I can guarantee will be fairly quick at this race, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that battle pans out. But Ferrari really needs to start separating themselves from this sort of midfield pack, which they are really starting to get entangled in. The Ferrari director says that he's not expecting wins until 2022 for Ferrari. But, for Ferrari fans, for the Italian media, that is not good enough at all. That is, saying that Ferrari aren't going to win for like 2 years is like signing your own death warrant in Italy. That is just not something you want to hear. And, it's certainly been a challenging season for Ferrari, and these next 2 races, having back-to-back at such low downforce tracks yet again, is really not going to work in their favour. But I think apart from the Styrian, they didn't really get out the sort of Q2 very far. The 10th was their best. They really need to improve on that in these low downforce tracks and get both cars into Q3. Now, as previously mentioned, we're going on to Racing Point. Racing Point had an amazing car in Hungary, were unlucky not to get on the podium, really. I think Lance Stroll just lacked that race pace needed to sort of convert that P3 on in qualifying into P3 in the race. But yet again, another low downforce track. They have incredible pace in low downforce, as you would expect from almost Mercedes copycat car. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they sort of line up. They look so strong in Hungary. Hungary qualifying seemed to just really show how much pace that Racing Point car has. And if it is the second fastest car on the grid, then we could see a real showing here. Maybe we could see a repeat of like 2015, where the Williams managed to lock out the second row and jump both Mercedes, by turn one. If something like that happens this weekend, that could make for a really, really interesting race. Now, McLaren will be hoping to sort of, really pick themselves off after what was a pretty terrible race in Hungary. That high downforce really didn't seem to suit their car. The mixed conditions also were just not favouring them at all. They're going to be hoping for a nice, clean race, hopefully with some stuff happening at the front so they can take maximum advantage. The race pace wasn't awful in Austria and Styria, but it wasn't brilliant. It was quite clear that they were losing time to Racing Point, to Ferrari, to even Renault at some times. They really need to start working on that and making sure that their race pace is good as their quality pace. There's no doubt that that car has amazing, and I really mean amazing, raw pace, but when it just comes to the long distances, it does seem to fade, and it's, relying on Lando Norris's amazing last laps to, get them the points that they need this season. McLaren do have a very good car, they have a very good package, they just need to just keep piecing all these things together, and I think they could be a real contender for, podiums more this season. We've got, 3 new tracks, added to this year. We've now got Imola, Portimao, added to this. We've got, of course, Mugello, and we've got the Nürburgring. These are tracks I think McLaren could do very well at if they just make sure they piece everything together. And I think this back-to-back at Silverstone, British Grand Prix, British, being a British team, I think this is where they need to start getting it right. The protesting Frenchman, Renault, they just seem to be there or thereabouts at the moment. Nothing really special to say about Renault. They did show some great pace in Austria and Styria, which would lead me to believe that they could, put on a good race in Silverstone. But we haven't really seen much to sort of convince me that they're going to really be battling the likes of McLaren or Racing Point. They do seem to struggle on the tyres, and cooling seems to be an issue. If this is going to be a hot race, it could, potentially spell a bit disaster for Renault. But this being Britain, it's never guaranteed that it's going to be hot. And, we could have a thunderous rain shower at any point. I don't think it's forecasted, but, you never know with Britain. Now on to Haas. It's not going to be a great race for them. They're already having issues with their car. While they did do an amazing strategy in Hungary, their car clearly was well off the pace. And, being down on power without Ferrari is not going to help them at all. And I think this could be a very painful weekend, couple of weekends, entire season for Haas. It has been pretty poor so far, and honestly I don't see any signs of it getting better until Ferrari can really sort out the problem with their engines. The likes of Ferrari, Haas, Alfa Romeo are going to suffer this season, and we've already seen that. Arguably Alfa Romeo in terms of raw pace is the slowest car on the grid, which is incredible to think that the likes of Williams were 2.5 seconds off the pace last season, and they've been able to sort of completely close that gap because that Ferrari engine is so bad that Alfa Romeo car is just not a great car. Neither is that Haas car. Alfa Romeo do seem to have some good race pace though. You know, Kimi Raikkonen has been going very strong this season. Antonio Giovinazzi has been a bit up and down. It's not been particularly brilliant, but he'll be hoping that he can have a better result this season. You know, his position at Alfa right now is a bit sort of unknown. Soon I'm going to be releasing and post on my blog. If you're not following already, it's viewfromthecrowd.com. I'll leave a link to it down in the description. Sort of going through who I think should be on the grid for next year. I know there have already been announcements made about certain teams, but in my head I have a different view of what I really think the 2021 grid should look like. And in the case of Alfa Romeo, for me, I think it should look completely different. Now finally on to Williams. As I said, you know, they were the slowest car on the grid, really sort of, you know, picked up their pace. And, you know, in Hungary they were doing so well, but that race was just a comedy of errors and disasters for them. It was not great for the Williams garage after such a brilliant high in qualifying. It was an absolute crushing blow on Sunday. I really don't know how to sort of judge where they're going to be this weekend. You know, we saw George do a great job in the Styrian Grand Prix to get, you know, into Q2, but that was because it was raining. Yeah, I think in terms of raw pace in low downforce tracks, Williams aren't still there. I think they've still got a few drag issues, even with that Mercedes engine in the back. I will say I don't think they're going to be completely dead last on the grid. Just because of the power-sensitive nature of the track, I think it is going to be more of an issue for the Haas and Alfa Romeo cars. But yeah, it's going to be tough nonetheless. And in terms of any points, I really don't see Williams getting any points from this race at all. I think that just kind of goes without saying. In terms of any predictions I have for the race, I really don't have sort of any. I think in terms of a podium, I think it's going to be a pretty standard 1-2 for Mercedes. I think Hamilton is going to win. It's a track that he does very well at. I know he tends to sort of just, I don't want to use a really cringy term, but vibe off the British crowd, which of course won't be there, but you know, he'll still want to do this. He's been on tremendous form and really shown that he's after his 7th world title. So, yeah, easily a win for Lewis Hamilton, second Valtteri Bottas, and then third I'm going to go with a pretty boring answer of Max Verstappen. But yeah, make sure to follow my blog, of course. Link for that will be down in the description. Posting a load of new content on there recently. You know, varied stuff, not just Formula 1, football, MMA, boxing. You know, it's a blog about stuff that sports that I'm interested in. So yeah, it's got, I wouldn't say a wide variety, but a quite decent variety of sports if you're interested in reading. So guys, thank you so much for watching. My name's been Lewis.